So, today is Father's Day as I record this, and if you don't know my journey, I lost my father when I was 5 months old. He was killed, and I obviously don't have any recollection or memory of that in the conscious realm. When I was 27, I realized love and bond and things that I was searching for in that relationship aspect was what I had felt with my father, which took me learning that babies build their bonds, most of their most sacred bonds within the first 5 months of their life. And I had exactly 5 months and 3 days with my father. Really 2 full, but it's like that was the love and the energy that I was looking for. And when I realized that, when I had that realization and realized that I do have access to that love and that energy, and I always have, it's always been all around me, and that the signs that he's sending me, and literally from that day I started seeing signs everywhere. From the moment that I left my therapist's office and admitted that I had that realization, and quite frankly, I think traditional therapy for me stopped not long after that. And a few years later, during the pandemic, I found rapid resolution therapy and started to shift on the subconscious level, because I always had this anger because my father was killed. He didn't just get to die naturally. He was killed at 27. He was very young. I just turned the age that my father was whenever I had this realization and this bond that I was looking for. And then bring it to my 30s, and I discovered this rapid resolution therapy modality, which is clearing trauma without having to relive the trauma, and just giving the therapist, specialist, facilitator, whoever you work with, a headline of what's been going on and what I had been experiencing recently, and clearing it from a nervous system level versus trying to get the mind on board first. When the nervous system is on board first, it's so much easier to work with the mind and clear the mind and free yourself from trauma genuinely and truly. And I don't think any other therapy does this. And ironically, he was a traditional psychiatrist and worked in the social working fields, and created this for sexual trauma survivors and war vets. And it's trickling into the rest of the world, and I think it's such a magical modality and has highly supported me. And I used to feel so much guilt and so much resentment for this holiday, and I used to dread this holiday because I hated seeing everyone's Father's Day posts, or I hated seeing, all the families and their fathers, and not because I was jealous of them or, upset that they had their fathers. It was just kind of like sad that I didn't, and sad for myself. And who wants to be reminded to be sad for themselves? Who wants to be in a position to feel that in the first place? So it came down to, I don't mind the holiday anymore. In fact, I don't even really notice the holiday anymore. I, acknowledge the people that are living that need to be acknowledged, and then I move on from there. It's just another day, and a day that I celebrate. And I think we bring this day and age, we bring attention to these holidays that have been made up to honor people, and it's almost like we apply too much meaning to them they're really just to bring acknowledgement to the important people in your life, and then that it applies to, and then that's that. Go on about your day as another day and celebrate the people and acknowledge them, how you're called to celebrate them. And if it's simply by sending a text message or offering a phone call or making a simple post and that be that, then that's that. There's no going into this entire day of acknowledgement about it, or that this has to be your focus the full waking moments of your day. Like, who said that anyways? Like, really, everything is made up. Like, everything, even the fact that we believe in higher source and powers, every single one of them are all made up. It's all about faith and belief. And it's what we believe is true for us. What we believe is true for us. And what the next person believes is true for them. And that's totally okay. And the more people who live their life that way, the less hate and nastiness is out there. And the less bullshit comments from unhappy people or unhealed people or misaligned people will affect you. And to all the little kids that used to make fun of me for not having a dad, like, I wish them well. And it's like, fuck you and I love you, because some little kid needed space holding out there in the world that day, because they had their daddy and their daddy wasn't giving them what they needed for them not to be able to come and crack on a kid whose dad was killed because she didn't have her dad. And like, I was watching a story the other day and somebody asked the question of, what happened to you, and what did your parents do to you? Or maybe would have been more useful for them to do something differently to have you not be so hateful on somebody you don't even know's posts. And that just really landed with me, because I don't know what people's parents did to them to make them feel that they had to make these comments to me. And some of them didn't have their moms. One of them's mother left her in a grocery store, and she made comments to me about me not having my father, who was gone because he was killed. So it doesn't matter why we don't have the parent, or what parent we don't have, or who we don't have. Grandparents, my grandparents weren't able to afford to make it to Grandparents' Day. So I didn't have my grandparents at Grandparents' Day either, and people cracked on that. It's just people who are triggered to comment nasty things on people's posts, what within them needs to be healed, or what within them would be useful to be healed, and to no longer have these triggers or try to inflict their hate and pain onto other people. And to take it a step further, for all of us that are co-creating or considering to co-create, whether that's, it's not a choice that you decide to make or not, totally your choice, but what can we do to bring up a generation that they don't feel the need to hate and bash other people, especially for something out of a kid's control to the level of having a father killed? What? Anyways, the person who said this was pregnant, and I'm assuming getting quite a bit of opinions and comments around it. And why do, like, not really asking this question for answers, but really for everyone listening to kind of like sit with that within themselves, because we've all been guilty of this at some point in our lives, especially when we were teenagers, most likely. But like, why do we hate on people when we feel lack or triggered? Like, yes, I get there's scientific and psychological answers to this, but it's not useful. And it's okay if I'm not missing something that I don't know, because I never got to have that experience. And yes, sometimes I miss the experience of not being able to have the memories that other people around me with fathers do. And yes, you know, some people have told me appreciate my mother because I've got one. Meanwhile, they're disrespecting their fathers. And nobody hears me out here saying, appreciate your father because you got him. Like, everybody's got their own experience with your father. Maybe your father's a fucking piece of shit and has been extremely abusive. Maybe, you know, some mothers have been absolutely batshit crazy and abusive. And that's why some people love their mother for who they are, or their father for who they are, but from a distance. And that's okay. It really irks my nerves when people say that, because I've had my own experiences with my mom that have been great, and I've also had my experiences with her where they've been extremely traumatic and highly abusive, and both are okay, but it doesn't make it someone else's area to come and judge me. They have the free right and will to come and judge me or the next person based off of their relationships with their parents. But that really just comes down to entitlement. And none of us are really entitled to inflict judgment on other things that we don't even really know about. And in reality, we only know about people's lives of what they choose to share. So even whenever it's family, like, most of my family doesn't know half of the stuff I've been through with my mother. No one's ever asked. No one's ever talked about it. No one's ever asked why we have the relationship that we do, or have had the relationships that we've had in our time. And no one has even asked about how I feel about Father's Day ever in my life. No one's even asked me how I feel about my father. No one's talked to me about my father. No one shares stories about my father. And when they do, it's from, you know, standpoints that, like, I'll never be able to relate to or understand, because I wasn't present or in a state of conscious awareness, you know, as a 5-month-old. And it's okay. It's okay to feel how we feel, and it's okay to have our relationships that we have with our parents, and it's okay to have our relationships that we have with everyone around us. And it's okay if we don't miss someone or something on a day, and it's okay, like, on a holiday that brings attention to a specific group. It's okay if we do feel a little sadness or guilt or pain, and it's okay if some people feel something and then we don't feel the thing. And it's okay for people to have their negative opinions and let that be true for them, but it doesn't have to mean anything about us. In fact, when people have their judgments and entitlements and opinions, it typically means a lot more about them than it does about you. And that's been really useful for me. A lot of people without their moms like to say, appreciate your mom, because I no longer have mine. And never once one time actually I have, and to a younger person, but it wasn't in an insult manner. But they said this to me, and I simply said, I've never had my father, and you have yours, and you have nothing to do with him, and that's your choice. And I'm not out here telling you to go and have a relationship with him and treat your father with a certain way because you have him. So I would appreciate the same respect, and they understood and received it very well. And a lot of us are guilty of inflicting trauma we are trying to deflect on other people. So this is just what's channeled through me on today, on Father's Day of 2024, and is continuing to channel through me. The more and more I hear people talk about feeling guilty around not acknowledging certain holidays, or certain people having a certain relationship that they didn't necessarily get to experience with the same person. And we all have our own experiences. It doesn't matter if we come from the same family. Like, if you have a family of, my cousins, for example, there's 9 of them. They all have different relationships with their father. Same father, same mother. Every single one of them has a different relationship with their mother. Every single one of them has a different relationship with their father. Both amazing parents. Every kid is going to have a different complaint and a different thing that they love about the parent. Everybody's relationships are different because our journeys are so different. It does not matter if you are identical twins, triplets, quadruplets, whatever. It does not matter. Your journey and your experience is separate. Even conjoined humans have separate journeys. So it's time to stop living life like we're all living the same journey and the same experience. And it's time to stop treating healing and trauma and grief as if it's all going to be the same release, or the same journey, or the same process to healing, or the same process of ascension. It's all going to be different, and that's okay. What it is to find a healer and a leader and a guide, and to be that guide for your family or your kids or whomever you're called to, and lead them on their own journey. It's not one size fits all. And if someone's parent is a piece of shit and they don't want to acknowledge them, it's okay. And if one person's parent is gone because they died of a natural cause, or because they died because they were killed, that's their journey, and they get to grieve that how it's meant to be for them. And if at first that journey takes them down a path of addiction or anger, rage, hatred, violence, that's their journey. And we can't force them out of that journey. Me as a healer cannot force them out of that journey. I can wait for the invitation to support and guide them, but I can't force them. I can share my gifts and make them known. I can share my journey on how I've healed and processed and cleared my trauma, which is through energy work. I've been in counseling since I was 5 years old. 25 years of counseling, traditional counseling. And I had more release within 7-8 sessions on major life things. From my father's killing, from my mom going to prison, from the abuse from my mom, from being in foster care for a few months, from being bullied because I was tiny and cute, being bullied for being underdeveloped, being the black sheep of the family, and also being neglected and totally abandoned by my entire family because my father was killed and they couldn't hold space for a little girl who didn't have her father. Instead, they would just like to take away the rest of the family too, because that was what was easiest for them. And now that people speak to me more, or that I speak more, or I share more of my journey publicly, they're like, oh my God, I never knew that this was the case, or I never knew that this happened, or I never knew that your mother was this way, or I never knew that you felt this way about your father. Yeah, because y'all were so wrapped up in avoiding your own sadness and pain from my father being killed. Y'all didn't realize that I was brought into my family to be the healer of healers of them, and the people who did realize this, my Nana and my mother, were the happiest, most healed people. And a little bit of one of my aunts, but like still so many people ignored me and avoided me because of it. And most of my cousins, in fact, and some grandparents, but it's like not on me. That's the journey that they chose, and it means nothing about me. It's meant more about them. And I mean, respectfully, people in that day and age didn't have the guidance and support on how to process something like that to even be available for me. And the people who did take the opportunity to do their own healing were available for me and have been available for me. And this is the first Father's Day without my Nana. And I'm okay because they're together, and she's given me so many gifts and so many insights and so much healing since her passing, and so many signs that I haven't lost her. She's not lost. She's with me. And they're with me, supporting me and holding space for me. And I don't need anybody else to realize that, like I thought in the past. And I don't have to feel sad or guilty today, and I don't have to be a certain way. It just gets to be another day for me. And if you want it to be another day for you, it gets to just be another day for you as well. So for all of you out there, whether you have your father or not, I love you. I'm holding space for you. And whatever this journey brings you today, whatever this day brings up for you, let it be. Let it heal you. Let it move you. And if you realize it's not useful and not serving you, then send it down the river. Let it go as far the fuck away from you as possible, because it's not useful and it's not supporting your journey. And that's really the most useful thing for healing ourselves, is continuing to send what's not useful down the river. So if you don't want to acknowledge the day at all, that's totally fine too. It's time we start doing what's best and most useful for us first. And then what is most useful and best for those around us will all start to fall into alignment. And if it's not in alignment, it will completely fall away. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with more transmissions, Reiki music, and rapid resolution therapy hypnosis. Connect with Jack on the Aura app for daily inspiration and healing. Invest in yourself inside Reclaimed for monthly energetic support on your journey. Ready to dive deeper? Apply to Healer of Healers and transform your life in ways you never imagined. Align your life without doing more. We will connect soon.